What if I told you that in just 2 years, Americans went from taking out 16.8 million buy now, pay later loans to 180 million? That's a 970% increase. And the shocking part is, most people using these services have no idea they're being psychologically manipulated by some of the smartest behavioral economists in the world. Today, we're diving deep into the BNPL trap that's got everyone hooked. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at that 4 easy payments button the same way again. If you've shopped online in the last few years, you've definitely seen these tempting little boxes at checkout. Split it into 4 payments, or pay in installments, no interest. Buy now, pay later has absolutely exploded. We're talking about a market that went from $89 billion in 2020 to a projected $911 billion by 2030. But here's what nobody's talking about. This isn't just about making shopping easier. This is about rewiring your brain to spend more money. Let's start with the real tea, the psychology behind why BNPL feels so irresistible. There's this thing called temporal discounting, which is basically a fancy way of saying humans are terrible at valuing future costs. We want that dopamine hit now, and we'll worry about paying for it later. Think about it. Would you rather pay $100 right now or 4 payments of $25? Your brain literally perceives those 4 $25 payments as cheaper, even though it's the exact same amount. This isn't your fault. It's how we're wired. But BNPL companies know this, and they're absolutely exploiting it. Here's where it gets sneaky. Companies like Afterpay don't just accidentally put "enjoy now, pay later" everywhere. That's deliberate psychological programming. They're literally training your brain to separate the pleasure of buying from the pain of paying. It's like they've figured out how to hack the part of your brain that normally says, "Wait, can I actually afford this?" Behavioral economist Dan Ariely, who studies this stuff for a living, says BNPL isn't just about financial convenience. It's about reimagining the psychological contract between consumers and their purchases. They're changing how you think about money. The user interface design is genius too. They'll show you that first $25 payment in huge letters, while the total $100 is barely visible. Your brain focuses on that small number and ignores the big picture. It's like financial sleight of hand, and it works so well that merchants see 20 to 30% higher order values when BNPL is available. Now here's where things get concerning, and this might hit close to home for a lot of you watching. Gen Z is absolutely dominating BNPL usage. We're talking about usage rates going from 36.8% in 2021 to a projected 47.4% by 2025. Nearly half of an entire generation is using these services. Young adults are the perfect target for these psychological tricks, and not just because they're digital natives. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning and impulse control, doesn't fully develop until your mid-20s. So if you're in your teens or early 20s, you're literally more susceptible to present bias and instant gratification. BNPL companies know this. It's not just about age, though. These services are specifically designed to appeal to people who might struggle to get traditional credit cards, or who are already feeling financial pressure. Students with loans, young professionals with entry-level salaries, anyone who's looking at their bank account and thinking, "I want that thing, but I can't afford it right now." And social media makes it so much worse. You're scrolling through Instagram, you see an influencer wearing something amazing, you click through, and there's that BNPL option right there. The path from "I want that" to "I bought that" has been shortened to literally seconds, with no time to think about whether it's actually a good financial decision. Okay, so maybe you're thinking, but it's just 4 payments? What's the big deal? Well, here's where things get really problematic. Something called loan stacking. Picture this. You buy a jacket with Afterpay, some skincare with Klarna, new headphones with 𝐬𝐫𝐷, and maybe some home stuff with Affirm. Now you've got 4 different BNPL loans with different payment dates, and most of these don't show up on your credit report. So you, your bank, and even the BNPL companies themselves might not have a full picture of how much you actually owe. This is creating what experts call phantom debt, real money you owe that's invisible to traditional credit monitoring. And remember, the average BNPL purchase has grown from $121 to $135, with some people using it for purchases over $1,000. This isn't just impulse buying anymore. People are using BNPL for rent, medical bills, even groceries. When you're using installment payments for basic necessities, that's usually a sign that there's a bigger budgeting issue going on. Here's a stat that should worry everyone. 66% of BNPL users say they're concerned about the financial risks, but they keep using these services anyway. That disconnect between knowing something might be risky and doing it anyway? That's the psychological manipulation working exactly as designed. The really scary part is that we don't know the long-term effects yet. This technology has exploded so fast that we're basically conducting a massive experiment on consumer behavior, and young adults are the lab rats. Now let's talk about who's really making money here. Because it's not just the late fees, though those exist too. BNPL companies primarily make money from merchants. They charge retailers anywhere from 2% to 8% of each transaction. That's way higher than credit card fees. But merchants are happy to pay it because BNPL increases average order values by 85%. Think about it. If I'm a retailer and I know that offering BNPL will make customers spend 85% more per order, that extra 6% fee is totally worth it. And get this, up to 40% of BNPL sales come from completely new customers who might not have shopped with that retailer otherwise. But here's what's really valuable: your data. These companies are collecting incredibly detailed information about what you buy, when you buy it, how you pay, and even what you look at but don't buy. That data is worth its weight in gold for targeted marketing and risk assessment. 5 companies control over 95% of the US market: Affirm, Klarna, Afterpay, Zip, and 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐞. That level of concentration means they're basically setting the rules for how this whole industry works, and those rules prioritize growth and profits over consumer protection. This isn't just an American problem. Globally, about 360 million people used BNPL services in 2022, and that number is projected to hit over 900 million by 2027. We're talking about nearly 1 billion people potentially caught up in these psychological spending traps. Different countries are handling this differently. Australia, where some of these companies originated, has 43% consumer adoption rates, and 45% of online retailers offer BNPL. But they're also starting to see the problems: increased consumer debt, people struggling with multiple payment obligations, and calls for better regulation. The Asia-Pacific region is seeing 28.4% annual growth. Europe is at 12.4%, and the US is growing at 12.2% annually. What's really concerning is that this is happening fastest in countries with younger populations who might not have established financial habits yet. We're potentially creating a generation that thinks installment payments for everything is normal. Okay, so after all this doom and gloom, you might be wondering, is there any way to use BNPL responsibly? The answer is maybe, but you need to be really strategic about it. First rule: only use BNPL for planned purchases that are already in your budget. If you are going to buy something anyway and you have the full amount available right now, BNPL can be a cash flow management tool. But if you're using it to buy something you couldn't otherwise afford, that's where you get into trouble. Second, treat every BNPL purchase like you're spending the full amount immediately. Don't think, oh, it's only $25 a month. Think, I'm spending $100 right now. Keep a running total of all your BNPL commitments across all platforms and include those payments in your monthly budget just like any other bill. Third, set strict personal limits. Maybe you allow yourself one BNPL purchase at a time, or you cap your total monthly BNPL payments at $50, or you only use it for certain categories like emergency expenses. Whatever your rule is, stick to it. The good news is that regulators are starting to pay attention. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is looking at requiring clearer disclosure of total costs, standardized credit reporting for buy now, pay later transactions, and better consumer protections. Some proposed changes for 2025 include treating BNPL more like traditional credit, requiring clearer warnings about risks, and making these transactions show up on credit reports so people can see their total debt picture. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, hit that like button and subscribe for more content about the psychology behind the financial products trying to separate you from your money. And let me know in the comments, have you fallen into the BNPL trap? What's your experience been like?